What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. It's Watchlist Game Week 38 time today. There is a lot of content headed your way this week, so if you're not already subscribed, make sure to hit that button and hit that notification bell. Watchlist today, free hit Tuesday, stream on Wednesday, team selection Thursday, Game Week preview on Friday, and then a deadline stream on Sunday. And we might even throw something in on Saturday if we can find something else to talk about. So there's a lot of stuff coming your way. With the watch list video, it's Game Week 38 plus, and I do have 2 free transfers. So basically, I'm looking at absolutely everybody. There's a lot of good options this week and a lot of good options that I don't own. So I'm going to talk about 5 of them in this video. Plenty to go through. Let's jump straight into it. So let's start off with Harry Kane, a player who we've talked about quite a lot recently, at least since restart. But before that, we've not really considered him for most of the season. But I think he's looking like a really good option now for Game Week 38 plus. Now, this isn't a new thing. I've not just suddenly jumped on a bandwagon because he scored 2 goals. Although I will say, I have flip-flopped between liking Kane, then not liking Kane, liking Spurs, then not liking Spurs a little bit. But remember I said back when they played West Ham, it was just that sprint to get up for the counter-attack. And I just think I hadn't seen Kane do that for a while. And we saw the same thing against Leicester. I saw a few people commenting on that. So he's not the Kane of old. He's still not playing as far forward as I would like, but I definitely think he's looking better. And honestly, his assist potential as well is really good too. The balls he's putting in for the likes of Son and Lucas Moura are really good. But since the restart, he's had 9 big chances. Now, that's 1 more than Mo Salah, although Mo Salah still has to play this week yet. And he's had 1 less than Antonio. And again, Antonio has to play again. But I think Harry Kane looks really good this week. Now, whether or not I can get to him for 10.9 million forward, it's tricky, I won't lie. But I definitely consider it. Right now, I've got Son. And if I was picking again, and I could just go on a wildcard, or I was free hitting this week, I'd definitely put Kane on there. If you look at things like shots in the box, big chances, and how quickly they are happening, Son is still a good option, but he's nowhere near as good as Kane. Kane is getting more centrally, getting plenty of shots away, getting really good quality chances as well. Expected goal involvement for Kane, he's I think he's 3rd highest so far. Again, some of the players have still got to play their Game Week 37 plus fixture yet, but Kane is right up there. Now, Crystal Palace away, in the past, I would have said, well, they're not going to concede too many goals in that game, but they've got injuries. Van Aanholt is also injured now. He's going to be out for the rest of the season after that injury against Man United. And they already weren't keeping many clean sheets before that. I think they've only kept 1 since restart. So I think this is going to have quite a few goals, and I think Spurs are going to go for it for 1, which obviously they will against a side like Crystal Palace. But also, we saw Crystal Palace play a bit against Man United, and I actually think they've been doing that for a few games, which is probably to their downfall rather than sitting deep. Maybe they just don't think they've got the players fit enough at the moment to be able to do that, and I think that's really going to help Spurs. We saw against Leicester on the counter, and I'm not saying they're going to get to counter-attack Crystal Palace, but I do think there'll be space in behind if they do try and play again. We saw against Leicester, they were really good for that. And obviously, if it's not Kane getting up for the balls, then it's going to be Son or Moura, and Kane could just be assisting them, playing those through balls through, as well as going forward as well. And the other thing I like about him, which I've mentioned before, he's going to play 90 minutes. He's on penalties, which I don't think he's had one since restart, so he's kind of due one of those as well. So he's just scored a brace. I would not be surprised if he gets another 2 goals in there, maybe even a hat-trick, I don't know. I think a lot of it depends how you think that Crystal Palace game is going to go. I think there's going to be goals now. I think both sides are going to go for it. There's not really a huge amount for either of them to play for right now. And Spurs, I don't know, it just looks like Mourinho suddenly found the team that's kind of going to do the business for him. Lo Celso in there, obviously Moura playing instead of Bergwijn, Son in there as a guarantee as well. And defensively they've been solid too. So I really like Harry Kane this week. I think if I was on a free hit, I would definitely consider him. If it was between a shootout between him and Son, I know he's a bit more money, but I think Harry Kane wins it at the moment. And possibly might look to see how I can bring him in this week. I can't believe it's Game Week 38 plus. I've got 2 free transfers, and one of them could be a Burnley defender, and that is not a joke. I've already got plenty of attackers that I like, depending on who I want to go for or have in my team. I might not actually need to use a transfer on an attacker this week, and if I don't, I'm going to be using it in defence. Now, I already have Charlie Taylor. I think Brighton at home is a really good fixture for a clean sheet. We know it's what Burnley do. They get 1-0 wins all the time. I have seen people speak about the fact that some of the players have mentioned they want to get Nick Pope that clean sheet, because if he gets a clean sheet in the last game of the season, he'll have 16 and he will get the Golden Glove this year, or for this season. Now, I don't think that really makes too much difference. Like, what, are they just going to suddenly start defending even better than they already do? I'm just not sure that's a thing. But in the end, I would just back Burnley defence anyway against Brighton. Now, I have Charlie Taylor, but he's injured. And sometimes Dyche leaves out players once they've been injured if the players come in and done well in their absence. But it's only been for a week or so for Taylor so far. So if he's fit to return, then I won't need to make another Burnley defensive transfer. Unless I want to free up some money from the likes of Trent or Maguire, which is possible, and then lets me put more money forward, then I could go for a double up. Now, the thing I like about Peters is once Taylor's been playing, he's been playing further forward. So the only thing I would say, if you are considering him, and you've not already kind of transferred him in or anything like that, is he was playing further forward, but Gudmundsson's back now. So they've got Gudmundsson and McNeil that can play kind of wide. So Peters, unless they change formations, not really needed there. And if Taylor does come back, then suddenly Peters might not be in the first 11. Now, that might not be completely true. Maybe Peters will keep his place. Maybe he'll still play wide, further forward, or whatever it might be. But I do think there's a chance of that happening, so I would keep an eye out on that. But if Taylor's not free, I mean, Brighton at home looks one of the... I think this week is actually quite hard to pick clean sheets. So Man United versus Leicester, Liverpool versus Newcastle could be a good one. Obviously against Brighton at home, Burnley looks really good too. So there's a few knocking about. Southampton playing Sheffield United at home as well. But I think Burnley against Brighton is one of the best ones. So if I need a defensive transfer or if I just want to swap out Charlie Taylor, then Peters is currently where I'm looking. If I got any reason to suspect that he won't start, then it's an easy switch to Bardsley instead. But honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this. Game week 38 plus, I'm looking for a green arrow and I'm looking towards Burnley. They're so well covered, by the way. I think in the last game week, it was like 85% of the top 10k has at least one Burnley defensive option, whether that's Pope, Tarkowski, Bardsley or Peters. 85% effective ownership, which is huge. If they get a clean sheet and your player you've got instead doesn't match them, that's already a red arrow straight away. So really like the look of Burnley defence this week. Even if Taylor's fit, I may still double up. A little bit more exciting than a Burnley defender, we have Raheem Sterling, 11.9 million midfielder. Now, I already own 3 Man City players, De Bruyne, Mahrez or Jesus, but I'm still looking at potentially using transfers to see how I can get Sterling in. The reason for that is, it's Norwich at home. That's a great fixture. And I think in terms of goal threat, it doesn't really get too much better than Sterling. Jesus is good. Mahrez could be good too. But I think Sterling's probably the pick of the bunch. Like if I was picking one player for Man City this week, it would be him. Now, we still got to check that Watford game. How will minutes be managed? You know, if Sterling and Mahrez play another 90, will they then be benched against Norwich at home? My suspicion, not that we should ever try and second guess Pep Guardiola, is they're going to put out a pretty full strength squad for this one. It's the last home game. I know the fans aren't going to be there, but there's not really a reason for them to rest players. They're not going to be in the FA Cup final, so that Norwich game is the last time to kind of give players match rhythm, which we've seen Pep talk about before. I think it's like something like 10 or 11 or 12 days between the last day of the Premier League season and then playing Champions League. So there's not really a reason to rest them after Watford for that Norwich game. And if Sterling or Mahrez or De Bruyne or Jesus or whoever it might be does get a bit of a rest in that Watford game, then suddenly they look like really good options. Now, one of the reasons that I would look to go from De Bruyne to Sterling is I just think goal threat is much higher, at least from open play. Obviously, De Bruyne's on penalties. There's people talking about whether David Silva would take them if they got them against Norwich. Look, maybe he would, and that would make De Bruyne a slightly worse option. But we know De Bruyne can get assists, and obviously if he gets 2 or 3, that's a huge rack up of points. But I think from a goal threat perspective, Sterling is where it's at. And the other reason I like him, he's less owned than Kevin De Bruyne. So if he does do better, that's a much bigger rank swing. And where I am, I'm looking for not massive differentials, but I'm looking where I can go a little bit different. And don't get me wrong, Sterling will be hugely owned this week, especially with so many free hitters bringing him in. But he's still slightly different to Kevin De Bruyne, who's really well owned in the top 10k. And I'm not saying people won't transfer him out or free hit him out, but he's still going to be very highly owned. And I would say probably slightly higher than Sterling. So that's why I'm looking at him. 17 goals, 5 assists, kind of matches up his stats for the season. I did say pre-lockdown he was looking like a flop of the season so far, just because we expect so much of him. And his underlying stats were really good, but he hadn't converted that into points. And now that is happening. And I expect that to happen against Watford and Norwich. I know some people will captain him against Watford. That looks like a really good pick if he starts. Against Norwich at home, he's one of my front runners, I think, for captaincy. Whether or not I can bring him in, and if Kevin De Bruyne gets a bit of a break against Watford, it'd be very hard to leave him out, especially if he is going to still take those penalties against Norwich. But Sterling is the one that I really want that I don't own, so he is on the watch list for sure. So speaking of midfielders and ownership, Mane is at the forefront of my thoughts as well. Now, on another watchlist video, I talked about Salah, and I have not written him off. I may still bring him in. I'm yet undecided on that because, as I said before, it would be Kevin De Bruyne and Son out for a Liverpool player and David Silva, which is not that bad a move, I don't think. But obviously, Son's about to play Crystal Palace, but he is a slightly worse option than Kane, which does make me wonder about whether I should stick to my plan to get rid of him. But either way, it would be Mane or Salah coming in. Now, I like both options. I think I've said this a few times. Like, Salah will always probably take more shots than Mane, which sounds good, more chances. But that happened last year, and Mane did very well at matching him at times because his quality of chances is usually a little bit higher. And in terms of big chances so far since restart, Salah's on 8 and Mane's on 6. So he's not that far behind. And a lot is made of them passing to each other. Will they assist each other? Do they want to help each other out? And I think it's probably blown out of proportion. But in this Newcastle game, I'm telling you, if Mane or Salah is in and around that box, they are shooting. There is no way that Mane is going to want to let... Salah's ahead in the Golden Boot race right now. And don't get me wrong, neither of these players is probably going to win it at the moment, the way it stands, because Vardy's just too far ahead, I think. We haven't yet seen Liverpool's game against Chelsea, so if Salah gets a few goals there or Mane gets a few goals, then it's a little bit closer. And to be honest, who wouldn't bet against these two getting a hat-trick potentially against Newcastle, one or the other? Probably not both. 6 goals seems a bit excessive, but it could happen. And you know, when they're in and around the box, they are shooting, they are not passing, a bit like Danny Ings did against Bournemouth. Now, I'm not saying he wouldn't have done that in a normal week, but as soon as he got that ball, I just felt like he was going to try and carve himself a goal, and he did. He took that extra step past the defender and bam, into the bottom corner. And I expect Mane and Salah to do the same. Now, the reason I'm looking at Mane is from a differential point of view. It was exactly the same position for me last season. I didn't go for him in the end, and I should have done because he was less owned. And in a one-game shootout between Mane and Salah, is Salah definitely going to win? He could do, of course he could. But in a one-game shootout, there is every chance that Mane scores more points. And I think when you look at those two, and let's say James Milner is back, then Salah wouldn't be on penalties. Yes, Salah could still win, but maybe it's worth taking that risk, that bet that Mane does better because he is less owned. And obviously, if he's less owned and he beats Salah, that's a much higher rank increase. Of course, if Salah wins out, then that hurts. But where I am right now in the kind of rankings, like around 148k, I don't know what that's going to finish at by the end of game week 37. But I want to be higher, maybe taking these slightly more differential players that are still great big hitters. And I think that is the key. It's not being different for the sake of it. It's picking out these players that we know can do well. They've got form. They've got a history of doing well, but they are less owned as well. So that's why I'm looking at Mane. And when I go for a Liverpool midfielder, it could be him over Salah potentially. So Serge Aurier is last on the list. Now, defender transfers is not something I would usually prioritise for the last game week. But as I've spoken before, I may have a free transfer to do something with my defence. Like right now, a lot of my concerns or thoughts around transfers are whether to take out Kevin De Bruyne and Son for someone like Mane and David Silva. Now, I think both combinations could do well. Maybe it'll be the game where Son beats Kane. Who knows? Maybe Kevin De Bruyne will get a penalty or two and absolutely smash it. But if I don't make those transfers and I keep De Bruyne and Son, who, by the way, are not bad options at all, then I've got 2 free transfers with very little to do with them in attacks. I'm pretty happy with the way my team is shaping up. So defence is where I might look to make some moves. Now, I do like Aurier this week. Obviously, what happened to his brother is extremely tragic. And I did think, that he wasn't going to play the rest of the season. But fair play to him. Like the mental strength to come back and perform for Spurs while that has happened is pretty incredible. And the fact that he played the last game makes me think he's probably going to play this one as well. So I'm strongly looking at him. We know he can be attacking. 7 assists already this year, plus 1 goal. I do think that Crystal Palace game, like I said before with Kane, could be quite open. And we saw Crystal Palace against Man United. They did have a good chance of scoring. They could have scored on another day, and maybe that will happen against Spurs. But Spurs have been very good defensively. So I like Aurier not only for a clean sheet this week, but also for attacking returns. And at 5.1 million... that's a pretty decent price. So him bombing forward, obviously they've got Moura and Son with pace as well. But he's going to be getting right up there, especially if, I suppose, Crystal Palace try and sit back a little bit at times, or maybe on the counter, or whatever it might be. I can see Serge Aurier getting some attacking returns from this game. And when it comes to clean sheets this week, I've already kind of said, like, Burnley against Brighton looks good. Like, would I trust Man United against Leicester? I might play Maguire. I'm not that confident of Jamie Vardy not scoring, especially against his old teammate. And then, yeah, Burnley against Brighton looks good. Newcastle against Liverpool could be good for Liverpool as well. So there are some potential clean sheets out there, but I don't think there's kind of 4 or 5 standout options especially in a game week which is notorious for goals. So because it's notorious for goals, I wouldn't usually spend points on a transfer for defenders. But if I've got a spare one, why not go for a defender that not only can get clean sheets, but also, maybe even more importantly, can get attack and returns. And in game week 38, we've seen some big scores from defenders before. I think Robertson got an 18-pointer. It might have even been last season. Van Aanholt's done very similar. I think Serge Aurier has got as good a shout as anyone that's doing it next week. So I don't yet know if I'm going to bring in a defender, but if I do, and I don't want to go boring with a Burnley one, Serge Aurier is firmly on my watch list as well. So that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like. It really does help out the channel, and the support since lockdown, and obviously before as well, has been absolutely incredible. So thanks very much for that. If you've not already hit subscribe, make sure you do, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already, whether you're subscribed or not, because there's loads more content to come. As I said at the start of the video, tomorrow is free hit stuff. On Wednesday, after the final game, which I think is Arsenal versus Villa at 8:15, so around 10 o'clock I'll be streaming. Thursday it's team selection. Friday it's the game week preview. Saturday we'll see, and then Sunday there's a deadline stream, which will probably be a little longer than normal as well, because I know there's going to be so many questions heading in to that final deadline. So it's going to be a bumper ride this week. I'm really looking forward to it. Make sure you subscribe, and also leave me a comment below who is on your watch list this week. There's loads and loads of options. A lot of us have got 2 free transfers, a lot of people free hitting, so we really can consider so many players. There's 5 on my list, but to be honest, there probably could be more. So let me know who's on yours, and also let me know what you think about the ones that I have picked. Otherwise, I will leave it there. Thanks very much for watching. I will catch you again tomorrow and pretty much every day this week. See you soon.